Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to the Wild Digest. I'm Scott, and we are going to start things off review-wise with a look at the book I promised I was going to read right out the gate, my first TBR for October, and that is this one, The Things That Are Not There by Robert Morgan. This is, it's an interesting little book, and before I get too deep into it, and trust me, there aren't going to be really any spoilers here, so you're safe to watch, don't run away. If you go online, like to Goodreads or whatever, and you start poking around for reviews of this book, you are going to see quite the range. A lot of 1 stars or less, if possible. I think Goodreads only allows 1. Lots of 1 stars. And then a few like 3s, and I think I saw, a handful of 4s. I don't really recall if it goes much higher than that. If you noticed on my thumbnail, there are 3 stars. And I probably would go like 2.5 technically, like drop it right in the middle. It is not a great book, but it's not a terrible book. It was light and fluffy, and in a weird way, even though it's contemporary, it reminded me of the old HBO Cast a Deadly Spell, if you remember that, which most definitely is an occult detective movie. Fred Ward is in that. And Clancy Brown, and it's it's a little goofy, some cool monsters. You've got a detective who gets drawn into a scenario where he has to basically help save the world. That's how I guess technically that's how they always are. But when I was reading this little book here, I was picturing it as like a pilot, as an HBO special. Or something like that, a Netflix special nowadays. It's okay, so it's not great, but it's entertaining, and I think one thing it definitely succeeds on is introducing us to a cast of characters that hopefully we will see more of in future books, because of course there are 6 of these mass market paperbacks from Berkeley under the Diamond Mystery brand or logo, and then I think Henderson released. C.J. Henderson, Robert Morgan, same guy. He released, I think, 2 additional ones, but I don't know if they were print or electronic. I haven't dug deep enough into those yet. Also, I originally had said that I was going to read this to start my month of October off, and that possibly, because I have 4 more in the series, I would maybe read another one, in a couple of weeks. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to do that. It's not so much that I dislike the book. I think I will eventually read the others just so I can really get a good idea of what the whole series was about. But the problem I have is that this book is most definitely the introduction, because it introduces Teddy London, who's our private eye, our protagonist, and piece by piece introduces us to other characters who comprise the group that pulls together to try to resolve the story. And my concern is that the second book carries on directly from this book. And if you look in this book, actually, it does say, Domus Teddy London's investigation of the vampire underground in Some Things Never Die, available April 1993 from Diamond Books. So, and I think there's even a reference somewhere else in here about it being, obviously this is the first. So my assumption is that particular book, Some Things Never Die, is probably the second book, and it's not one that I have. I've got all the others. There's one missing in my collection. That's the one I don't have. So I can't read the vampire story just yet. And I think I'm not going to aggressively go on the hunt for it. I don't think I'm going to order a copy. If I find it at some point, I will grab it, and then I will return to the series. But I think for now, I've read this, I've learned about the characters, and I'm intrigued enough to want to read some more. So let's talk a little bit about this particular story. So Teddy is a PI in New York. He has an office in a high-rise. And when the book opens, this incredible apocalyptic storm is just ripping apart New York. There are lightning strikes all over the place, loss of life, all sorts of chaos, heavy rains. And London gets to his office, and he's already contemplating that he is going to be retiring. He doesn't want to do this anymore. But when he gets to his office, he finds out that a lightning strike, apparently, has destroyed his office. It's shattered the windows. It's blown the blinds apart. All of his files have been wrecked and soaked with rainwater. Rain is flying in. And this is just a little bit more for him to decide, that's it, I'm done, I'm getting out of this whole business. We assume he's been there for a while because his office seems to be established. He has an interaction with this one character who I think is sort of the superintendent, handles like, I mean, I almost want to say like a janitor, but he's a little bit more than that. He helps, clean up the offices, but also set up the offices. And so I'm not entirely, I don't remember what his role was, but you were introduced to that character. So all this chaos is here. He's kind of kicking back in his wrecked room, and another character comes in, and it's a client. It's this woman, Lisa. So of course it's a private eye story. It opens with a beautiful woman in distress coming in to CRPI to ask for some help, and apparently Lisa has had not only these weird visions, but she's also being stalked. So at first it seems like a fairly simple case, but then suddenly she says, oh, by the way, one of the things that's stalking me is outside your window right now. And this thing rushes in and a big battle ensues. And I mean, it's ultra violent. Teddy is like gutting this thing with his knife, and he finally manages to kill it. Well, this, of course, starts him off on a path on this new case, and it introduces us to a number of colleagues who are effectively going to wind up being the sort of adventure party, as it were, which is kind of funny because ultimately, for a gamer and game designer like myself, this feels like, to some extent, like an adventure party. This feels like if you've ever played Call of Cthulhu or any kind of a horror or occult investigation type of game, that's what you get out of the group, because you have your PI, you've got your victim, but she has her own abilities, although she's kind of a cardboard character, and we really don't get much out of her in this volume. Maybe if she sticks around in future books, we'll learn more about her. You have the Muscle, which is the guy I told you about who works in the building, and he winds up effectively being the bodyguard in the Muscle. He's a big guy. You have a weapons expert. You have a psychic. She uses psychometry or whatever, where you can touch an item and get readings off of something. Who else do we have in there? There's a professor who's been studying ancient cultures and things, and he has a connection as well who helps him, and a medical doctor. And those sort of are the core characters that we see throughout the rest of the book. So anyway, Teddy gets sort of sucked into this whole mess. He learns more about this creature. And then we also learn more about what's actually going on here. And I don't even remember exactly how all the pieces came together. I think there's some documents that he finds that have some cryptic wording in them, including a name, a strange name, which is Cthulhu. Not Cthulhu, Cthulhu, or Cthulhu. It's Q''Talu, Cthulhu. And he begins to go and try to investigate what Cthulhu is. He has a very strange run-in with this priest who, as soon as he hears about Cthulhu, kind of loses his mind and starts beating up on Teddy and actually asks Teddy to end his life, which is very, very strange. To end the priest wants him to take... Anyway, that's weird. So you immediately realize, okay, there's something pretty significant here. He gets most of his information from the professor and his accomplice. I think they're at Columbia University, if I remember right. And you basically learn that Cthulhu is this ancient being or power or god-like thing, kind of Cthulhu-ish, obviously. And it has attempted to come through and take over the world or whatever multiple times. And each time it has been thwarted by the Destroyer. Guess who the Destroyer is? Yes, it's Teddy. So that's, I guess, one big surprise. But that comes on pretty early. He gets told that he's the Destroyer pretty early on, and has to sort of contend to deal with that. We eventually, we bounce around a little bit. There's not a lot of detective work in this. A lot of stuff sort of just falls into Teddy's lap. And eventually he does find out that the main person behind this whole Cthulhu situation is actually Lisa's father. This is actually also something you learn pretty early on. But yeah. And so he goes armed to the teeth with all sorts of crazy weaponry, including an anti-tank gun of some kind. Strange. And finally, there's a big showdown with minions, and Cthulhu does manifest. And I'm not going to tell you what happens after that. There is a significant body count in this book. And most of the characters survive. Most. But yeah. And then that kind of just wraps up. So it is it's definitely a Cthulhu mythos story. Cthulhu mythos story. That sort of just unravels. But I think it's designed more to introduce us to the characters with a bang. There's, obviously, if you were going to just open it with here are the main characters in the storyline that I'm going to spread out over multiple books, and they're fighting, I don't know, werewolves, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful as if we're fighting something that's going to potentially end the world. So that's what happens in this book. As I said multiple times, 3 out of 5 stars. Not a terrible read. It's well written. It's pleasant to read. Read it as if you're watching some kind of a goofy Netflix movie or series. And I think it'll work better for you that way. It's not especially deep. And yeah, that's the things that are not there. So coming up, I'm going to be reading The Dreams in the Witch House. I've actually already started it. It's not a very long Lovecraft story, but I'm going to wait for the elusive exclusive Book Society, that's those guys, right, to do their live. I think they were going to be doing a live about it. We'll see. So I won't be doing a video about that one, and a lot of you have already read that. And then after that, probably I'm going to be taking this on the road with me, will be You're All Alone by Fritz Leiber. So that's going to be something I'm going to read next week, and that one may call for a video. All right, that's it. Thank you very much for watching my first October TBR review, and we'll be back with more content very, very soon. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe.